if you look at the, I don't know what to call it. Is it an infographic that we put up yesterday? Is it a meme? What is that?
It's a meme.
It's a meme.
It's a meme.
It's a meme. Yes. All right, so if you look at the meme that was put up Tuesday, and we're going to do that every Tuesday, it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was a little bit ambiguous, and it was designed to start a conversation. I think it started more arguments than conversations, and it just shows you that people in the dog world solidify. They get something that they believe, and like a tool they use, and how they use it, when they use it, and they start to defend it instead of explore it. So if you look at the guy in Australia, I don't want to say his name, but the guy in Australia, yeah. So if you look at him, he talks from behind the keyboard, and it's fine. It just shows you who he is. It's the human temperament test, right? So it is. So it's one of those things where if you really look into it, do you understand? Like, I think you know how to press a button. And this is for a lot of people. I think they know how to press a button. I think they know that it gets some kind of result with their dog, and they feel safer with it. They feel real safe. But I think people barely understand the tool. Barely understand the tool. And they do not understand the dog. Now, again, people will go absolutely apeshit saying, you're telling me I don't know my dog. Well, I know you know parts of your dog. But one of the things that I was really talking about with Elliot, when we had some really long talks about this, is, do you understand drive? You know, if you put an e-collar on Hadouken and he's going after a horse, he's not going to go after a horse. I've had him around horses, but let's just say he's not going to stop. He's not going to stop. It's going to turbocharge it. It's going to supercharge it. It's going to put nitrous in there. And what happens, and this shit happens all the time. What happens if your dog is far away from you and another dog with or without an e-collar comes over and engages your dog? You zap your dog and it supercharges it, and your dog starts fighting harder. Okay, your dog doesn't want to fight. It wants to, I guess, what we'll call obey, because it will try to come back to you. Now you're making your dog weak in a fight. So what's going to happen is that other dog is going to capitalize on that and just shred your dog. So now your dog has two assholes to worry about: the asshole dog and the asshole person pushing the button. The other thing is, people go, oh, well, I know where I go hiking. Yeah, you know what? I've seen it go south so many times. What about when you get desperate and you dial up the charge? What happens then? Now your dog may shut down while it's fighting with another dog. How about if you kind of, well, I didn't really charge the battery, so I can't hit that range. How about creating superstitions with the dog? How about the fact that people don't understand that if it's a mild stim and the dog's standing next to, I don't know, a phone booth, that's pretty bad. That shows how old I am. But if the dog's standing next to a phone booth, the dog's like, okay, those things suck. And the problem is you're stimming without any input from the handler other than punishment. And they are a wonderful tool. I use them for people who have severe disabilities, dogs that are deaf, but you have to understand the tool and understand not even your dog, other dogs, other livestock. The other thing I wanted to say too is, how did people ever teach their dogs not to go after livestock before the electric collar came out? Because we're 33 to 36, it's disputed a little bit, 1,000 years. And there's still livestock in England and the United States, and you know, teach the dog. It's a personal lesson that you should be teaching before you take your dog hiking.
But again, it comes back to, if you haven't seen it, you don't believe that it can exist. You see it in the comments, comment threads on my posts all the time. and I posted a couple of your videos, because I don't have any videos of me working recently, with, just with no equipment on the dog whatsoever, and the work that was done wasn't achieved with the use of electronics. It was just normal, flat buckle collar and leash.
Yep.
It was just training. Training is the sell. But when you're sold a lie, because let's face it, e-collars make people a lot of money.
Oh, they do, and they give people a lot of ego, and they give people a lot of false sense of security. I mean, there's a lot of bad juju with an e-collar.
Yeah, and it separates us from it. Just like you say all the time for this conversation, adds another layer between you, another layer of separation between you and the dog. And I was looking back through my photos from when I was at the working facility in Kenya, and I had my working dog off leash, and I didn't even give it a second's thought. We didn't have e-collars. I didn't even know there was such a thing as an e-collar.
Hang on a second. You had your working dog in Kenya, but there's no livestock in Kenya. There's nothing there. There's no animals in Kenya. Why would you even think to have an e-collar in Kenya? Because it's just flat and it's just open. There's no animals there.
No distractions, completely sterile environment. But this is the point. I went out for an evening stroll up around the facility, and we were in the hills in Naivasha. And so you've got, there is livestock, but there's more game than there is livestock. So there's giraffes, and giraffes can give a hell of a kick.
They have giraffes in Kenya?
Giraffe in Kenya, would you believe it? Zebra, they're called dik-diks.
The tiny little deer. Yeah.
No, cute little things. I didn't even give it a second's thought.
Because the dog is trained.
Is trained. But then someone says, here, take this magic pill.
Oh.
It does the same thing as your training does.
It doesn't.
So when I came to the UK and I started working with Bear, and we had this conversation, and and I got her at 6 months, and there were a lot of ingrained behaviours. And instead of going back to my roots and going, right, this is how we're going to do this and structure it like I would a working dog, is how I work with my clients' dogs. We don't do bite work and stuff because we're not doing protection, but the foundation's the same.
Yep.
It's a great foundation. I didn't do it because I was told, here, you can have this magic pill. This is how we do things here. And it's just going to make your life so much easier. And how many false positives did I see? And I was blinded to them. Until I wasn't anymore, and the scales fell from my eyes. I don't even know where my e-collars are anymore. They're in a bag in the loft. They've been there in over a year and a half because I went back to my roots. And the most magical, joyful thing about that is that it cleared the communication between the channels of communication between myself and my dogs opened up again.
Yep.
Because there was just there's not the false positives. There's also not the false sense of security. There's not that. But what if?
Oh, it makes people lazy.
Training work because I've seen it. It worked with the hundreds of dogs that came through the working facility. So I apply that plus all the new and improved knowledge that I've had since working with you. We're learning, improving. We're constantly upping our game and learning and growing and evolving. And you learn from the dog. I learn from every client and every dog that comes through my books.
Yeah, but I think that gentleman said, Nikki, you expect people to actually, something, I'm paraphrasing, because God knows someone's going to light the fuse on his tampon if I don't quote him exactly right. But you expect people to actually train their dogs to not go after livestock. Yes, I do.
But what I recall from reading the comment, and this is where you, and I don't mean this particular individual specifically, I mean anyone who is engaging with another person in a debate, particularly online, you should be doing your research, because the comment the part that amused me was that he said, you have no experience working with people in real life situations, and it made me chuckle. Because I thought,
About me?
about you.
Oh no, he's right. I
I
don't ever. I sit in here and I never go to Minnesota. I never go to Texas. I mean, I've traveled more shit during COVID than I've traveled.
but that's the thing. We know that, and the people. It's what we were talking about, you and I, yesterday, about play the ball, not the man. And when you play the man, you're already on shaky ground because you haven't done your research about the level of experience and the level of knowledge and application.
But that's just
And
hate. That's just hate, and that's fine. That's fine. I don't like. Yeah.
the point that I'm coming to is that you see a lot of this debate comes from, or a lot of the pushback. Yes, it comes from ego. It comes from defensiveness because it's people who have been given that, take this pill, which is the e-collar, and it will solve everything, and it fixes everything.
It doesn't.
But I know that. The point that I'm coming to is that you are offered this thing when you haven't seen what the alternative is.
But they think they know, Nikki. They think they know.
Of course they think they know, but that's not their fault. It's only your fault if you're shown. You just put a little effort. This is what you can have.
Yeah.
If you're willing to explore further.
But
if you see that and then you choose to do differently, then that's on you. If you haven't seen it, if you're in Plato's cave, that's not your fault. The people who were the allegory of the cave, Plato's cave, they were tuned.
Look it up, people. Read a book.
But the comments on that were so fascinating.
Well, it is, but I also think, why are you shitting? This is one of the things Elliot and I talked about. It was a brilliant conversation, yeah? Yeah, in the car, where I said, why would you get upset at a meme that encourages conversation about our craft? Okay, maybe Australian guy has a different craft of his own, but why would you push away information? Why would you not be open to it? Why would you not be open to a discussion? Because Elliot was talking and like they just changed the narrative. And it's so okay, I don't know anything because I just sit here in this room and shit on people all day. But you've traveled around the world. You've been to the United States, you've been to Kenya, you've been to Spain, you've been all these places. And you look at the people with their dogs, and there's people who, like, having a dog is a responsibility. If your dog is your kid, and I love when people say that, it's bullshit because their dog is not their kid. It's the fact that it's lazy. It brings out the illusion of skill, and to anybody who knows what skill is, it's not an illusion. It's right in your face. But it also brings out that false sense of security. There's people around here now who go, "Oh, you're going to go to training? Just get an e-collar. These things are great." What they're doing is crushing their dog. This lady who worked with Butt Plug came to 2 seminars here. Her dog won't leave her side because of that. The dog figured out, I'm just going to stay next to you, because if I leave you, I shake and I run back. And she's like, "Oh, this is the greatest thing in the world." I'm like, do you understand what you've done to your dog? Do you understand what you've made that dog into because of your ignorance? And it's not just e-collar ignorance. It's dog ignorance. It's communication ignorance. And I'm not saying ignorant like I'm mad. Do I sound mad? Because everybody says I always sound mad. Wait. I'm not saying that it's ignorance about... Yeah, I don't know. I can't do that. What I'm saying is there's more to learn. And we have all these people who are, I'm using air quotes now, experts, and no one's talking about it. People tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear. People let the dog do what it wants to do, not what they need it to do. And everyone's different. So one guy in Australia with his thumb up his ass and his tampon fuse is lit, goes off like a Roman candle, and just starts defending something that he can't even possibly understand. His information is completely wrong. And when you get like that, when you get to that fishbowl that you're in, and someone makes a statement that disagrees with you, you've stopped learning. You've stopped. You have completely stopped learning. When someone has experience, you listen to them. Even if it's bad experience, because you can learn something from that. But when your mind is in neutral and your mouth is in high gear, it's really easy to see that you're the problem with the dog world.
Mm-hmm. But it comes down to, as well, you always say, when someone tells you who they are, believe them.
Yep.
And the person concerned that made the comment, that that just doesn't want to engage, doesn't want to have this debate.
Yeah.
They had commented on a previous live where we were talking about how to handle situations where you have your dog on leash, and an off-leash dog comes at you, and how you should handle that. And it's about situational awareness, and don't pick the fight. Choose your battles wisely. So you need to be aware of the other person, the other dog. Can you read all of that? And if you're not certain, turn around and walk away. It's not losing face. It's doing the sensible thing. It's de-escalating a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that was the same person that commented that you were wrong, that you shouldn't be telling clients to walk away. They should be able to stand up for themselves. And in that one post, that person is telling you everything about them. They want the fight.
And it's not
about advocating for the dog. It's about not losing face.
Well, it's also you're talking about on his end.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
But that's the thing, is like I think people are like, people always tell me what I think. You don't know what I think, and the whole thing is, I would very much like to have this person on a live to discuss it, but it's got to be a civil. I mean, that's what we don't do in the dog world, do we? We don't see an opposing view, a different opinion, and have a dialogue about it. We just don't do that. Mm-hmm. So for me, that's what those memes are supposed to be doing, is to incite thoughtful. They're not there like someone said, I feel like you put this here just to piss me off. I don't know who that person is. How the hell? So I'm sitting there going like, I don't know, what's her name? Monica Jones. And I'm like, oh, this will get her. Like, what? Do you think I have time in my day? Like, you know how busy I am. There is no time. The problem with the dog world, again and again, is that if everybody is in agreement, we're fine. And there is a wave of, in air quotes, again, e-collar trainers. You're not a dog trainer if you are reliant on one piece of equipment as your foundation. So that's the hardest part. Now, and there's people who are going to go, well, you don't use a leash and collar? I get off the leash and collar as fast as I can. And it is a foundation. But if you go to a PSA trial and you look at all of the e-collars and the toys that are right by the entrance to the field, you understand what I'm talking about. If what I said makes you upset, then ask me to clarify. Don't just shit down my throat. And if you want to talk about it, I will provide a venue for you to voice your opinion, and you can come and talk to me about it. But let's keep it real. Let's keep it real so that the people who are coming into the dog world as newbies don't get overwhelmed by the commercialism, the ego, and all the bullshit that's out there. Just let them have one little tiny oasis. It's not the dog, it's you, where they can come and say, what do you think about this? And then they can go away and make up their own mind. That's all. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm asking. Is that so hard?
Well, it shouldn't be, but it is.
Nah, it's not. You just, and the real saying is, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And that's that's one of those things. It's just when I used to do comedy and someone would heckle me, they did me a huge favor because now I know where you are, and that's fine. So it's just like, okay, we just keep. Look, I want people with opposing views in my life. I don't want yes men, yes women around me. I don't want that. I love to teach, and I'm generous to a fault. But the problem is that people online don't have to stand right in front of me and talk. They don't have to. And then it turns into hyperbole. It turns into I'll kick your ass. It turns into swearing at each other. Yeah, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not out there trying to make a name for myself. I'm a 54-year-old dog trainer. What do you think I'm gonna do? Like start over? Here's the thing. It's supposed to be to incite dialogue. That's all we're looking for.
Debate is fun, but it is interesting because the exchange that I read mentions livestock, and getting back to that, I'm fascinated because I think if the person in question who's saying, oh, you need to talk to somebody who trains livestock dogs, I follow, as do many of us, lots and lots of social media pages for stock dogs.
Yep.
And people who are working dogs up in, we were talking about this just yesterday, up in the Caucasian Shepherds.
I know where you're going.
But I don't see these people slapping e-collars on their dogs. No. They have an entirely different relationship.
Yes.
They're the people that I always talk about as the real dog men, because to me, the definition of a dog man isn't somebody who, it's not something you do, it's not a tool you use or a method or a system or a technique. It's how, it's just everything about the way you live with the dog, the way you raise the dog, the way you look at the dog, the way you communicate with the dog. The real dog men that I've seen, the relationship is very raw. It's very primal.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of hands-on stuff with the dog.
Yep.
And when you watch the guys with the stock dogs, there's one particular channel I follow avidly, /D Stock Dogs, and his dogs are so robust. Have I ever seen an e-collar on that dog? No. Never. And what's so marvelous is you watch the level of communication. So he has 2 dogs working cattle, and so he has 2 different systems of communication, because then you don't confuse the dog. He could put e-collars on both dogs, sure, but he uses whistles for one and verbal commands for the other, and I'm like, that's real skill. Let's call him up and talk to him about his livestock.
Well, I think the debate would be, well, that's different because he's using working dogs. And I think that, and I'm just going to jump ahead, but here's the deal. This guy's in the real world. Like he trains dogs to be very safe around, they're not attacking, they're herding. If you're such an amateur and you own a dog and you don't want to educate the dog, so you think the answer is to just slap an e-collar on it, then think again, because there's a video I have with my dog Kato, R.I.P., who was downing around chickens, playing around chickens. There's another dog in the background. There's traffic there. There's no collar on the dog. I never used an e-collar on that dog. And he was a chicken killing when I first, I got him back. He was a dog I bred and I gave away as a puppy, and then I got him back. And he killed 2 of April's Buff Orpingtons. I actually have a picture of, April said, you have to get rid of this dog. And I said, no, I'm not going to get rid of the dog. And she said, he killed, her chickens, boy, Jesus Christ, she should have married a chicken. And here's the deal. She said, I want to see a picture of a chicken sitting on this dog's back before I'll okay that. And I'm like, all right. And we did it. And then you see the chickens around him. Those are sex links or Wyandottes or something, the other ones. But that dog was 100%, because what I did was I told him what he can't do. So if you look at the Olaf out of control video where the dog's going after the other dog and the dog's going after the food, what was that? 2 seconds? It's the fact that these people do not. They're lazy thinkers. Lazy thinkers. Some of them are lazy thinkers. Some of them are very smart, but they're greedy. And none of them have the dog's eye point of view and understand what the dog is going through. And that's really difficult. So, I think we should get that /D guy on a live and get Mr. Australia too and let them talk.
Oh my God, I would love to. I will happily reach out to Mike/D and say, would you be prepared to come on a live? Because he breeds, raises, and trains the most beautiful dogs. I don't care. They always delineate. It's just like, well, that's a working dog, and this is a pet dog.
Yeah, they're all working.
I'm sorry, I want the same foundations under any dog.
But it's so stupid because, okay, then you have an easier time teaching the dog not to go after livestock than this guy does. So your dog is so out of control, you don't trust it walking by a field of sheep, and this guy's got Ferraris that are like heat-seeking missiles around sheep, and he can control them. Like your argument, do you hear what you're saying? You're getting the dumb all over you. Stop drooling. There was a really cool video of a Kelpie cross. Oh my God, it was one of the most beautiful dogs I've ever seen in my life. It was so beautiful. And I have Ackright now that we're working on. I think I'm going to go get some livestock and see how she acts around it. And then, she's got a lot of drive. And if she does exhibit drive, I'll teach her how to not do that. But that's a moment for me to work with my dog. That's a moment for me. That's so precious to me. Do you understand that? Because if I know that the dog is listening to me and I'm communicating well and I say, no, I don't want you to do that, then the dog goes, sorry, okay, I get it. And then the dog, it's done. It's over. But when you just put the e-collar on and let your dog go absolutely batshit and you can't trust your own training, what kind of trainer are you? And what are you?
That's not. You want to be proactive and responsive.
Yeah, not reactive, right?
It really comes down to that, and everything is a training opportunity, isn't it? And
yes.
You see it. I'm sure you see it with clients as well. I walk into an evaluation or a new client, and they're very sweet, and they say, "Oh, we wanted him to be on his best behaviour," and I'm like, "I don't. I want him to do all the shit that you've been telling me about, because if we can't see it, we can't fix it."
I want to see the monster. I want to see the monster. That's what I want. And the other thing, too, is go look at my evals. How are dogs walking in, trying to kill people, dogs, cats, other things, chasing cars? And then in just a few seconds, it's because they can switch. It's because the communication nowadays sucks. So between dog and owner. And there's how many trainers? Trainers are like raindrops. They're just everywhere. They have saturated the ground. And the problem is, none of them really, with few exceptions, I will say there are some out there, but have not, they don't keep looking at the craft. They learn enough to get a result, and then they stop. Now you've got the e-collar franchises, and you got all this stuff. You don't think we should be talking about this? You don't think that should be a debate that we should have? Come on. You're a dog trainer?
But there's also, do you think there's a propensity to collect? I see it a lot with the trainers that are coming up now, particularly. They seem to collect methods and techniques.
Yes.
So, it's like, well, for this we'll try free shaping and the clicker, and it's like there's a list that we go through and we check things off.
Yep.
And it doesn't come down, again, we go back to the raw primal nature. It's too militaristic, for the want of a better word. It's too, so you go through basic training in the military, and you get up at this time and you do this, and at this time it's drill, and then we do that, and it's like, but that's not
That's
That's
not
not how
feel.
a dog
No,
operates.
that's fucking not making love. That's the deal. It's like, all right, baby, it's 6 o'clock. In, out, done. Clean up. We're going to work. What are you doing? You're missing a great opportunity there, and you're just going to turn it into bullet points? Jesus Christ. Slot A, tab B, repeat as necessary. Jesus H. Christ. And that's the art form. You're looking at people who are calling themselves chefs, and what they are is actually the person who cleans the toilet at McDonald's. And they're telling you how much McDonald's makes. I'm not interested in the McDonald's. I'm not. You know my thoughts on money. You know my thoughts on. I have people around me kicking my ass, going, "Stop giving it away." Do I not have that? Facts. 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 And that's the thing, is that when I look at someone and they look like, when they find, I remember Tori working with Ranch. She was trying to get the dog to walk in between her legs, and it got to a point where I gave her instruction and she couldn't think to put the food in her other hand. Now, I don't teach the way most people teach, and they go, put the food in the other hand and I'll do it for you and do it for you, do it for you. Because I did the work and she got the result. That's not what I did. Mm-hmm. What I did was I said, you got to figure out how to move your body. You got to figure out where to put the stuff. It looked like she was having a grand mal seizure while giving birth to a full-size German Shepherd. And she's yelling at me. She's like, ask her. I'm not worried about the livestock. I'd be like, let's go. Let's get over there. Where are we going? And teach the dog, not just go, well, I walk by livestock, so I have an electronic welding device on my dog. So, I mean, that can backfire on you so hard. It really can. I'm going to put a couple of videos up on Patreon about what I've done with Hadouken as far as the socializing stuff and the environmentals and all that stuff. Because he's pretty bomb-proof, and he lives in the house. Every dog has something, but then there was one, I've been reluctant to post it. It was Roddy Kirk's... you electrocute your dogs, and I'm like, okay. What it is that there's that hand taser thing, whatever they call it. I don't know what they call it, stun gun.
Okay.
And Hadouken, I said, if I'm trying to explain something, if you go into a bite and the dog is stimmed, and this is way higher than an e-collar, he just goes deeper. He's not going to shut off. Mm-hmm. There are dogs like that all over the world. Shepherds, hunters.
There are people. Yeah. There are people like that too.
I remember I had a guy who was in the UFC was training with me for a while. And I don't talk about the people that train with me because it's none of other people's business. I don't need to get famous off, look who came to my shop. Yeah, I want to talk about the training. And he looked at a dog that was doing something like that. It wasn't on an electric collar, but the dog wouldn't out. And he looked down. He was in the bite suit, and I wanted to give him that perspective. And he looked right into the dog's eyes, and he goes, I know how you feel, buddy. And that was everything to me. Those moments that you miss by not going out and training with good people. You miss those things. That's sad, man. That's really sad. Anyway, I got to go, but thank you for taking the time.
Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Always a pleasure, never a chore. Ta-ta for now, dear.
Ta-ta for now.